Members, good morning. It's the appointed time. We have a quorum. I call to order the meeting. Welcome to the Bills Committee on Buildings Energy Efficiency Amendment Bill 2025. This is our second meeting. Let us first invite the administration to join us. The Secretariat has issued information papers, including one paper issued by the administration on the 14th of April. Please refer to CB-2765/2025-02. The administration also responded to the letter from Mr. Tony TSE dated the 14th of April 2025. Please refer to CB-2789/2025-02. In addition, we invited the public to provide written submissions on the bill between the 14th and the 23rd of April. We received 2 submissions in total from the public. They have been uploaded on the website of the Legislative Council, and they have also been sent to members for reference together with CB-2736/2025-01 and 02. The administration has provided a consolidated response. Please refer to CB-2789/2025-01. Welcome representatives from the administration. I now give the floor to Ms. Polly Kwok, Deputy Secretary for Environment and Ecology from the EEB, to take us through these 3 papers. If members would like to speak, please press the button to request to speak. Ms. Polly Kwok. Thank you, Chairman. Good morning. Good morning, Chairman, and good morning, members. I'd like to start with the paper CB-2789/2025-01. It is our response to the submissions received from the public. We received a total of 2 submissions from the public, and we'd like to respond to these views on a few fronts. On providing financial assistance and incentives, at present, according to the scheme of control agreements between the government and the 2 power companies in Hong Kong, we have programs under the Community Energy Saving Fund, CESF. Say in 2025, under the Electrical Equipment Upgrade Scheme and the Energy Efficient Equipment Subsidy, we provide subsidies to non-residential customers, in particular SMEs, to replace or install equipment and electrical appliances with higher energy efficiency. Moreover, there are 2 other funds, one Eco Building Fund and the other Smart Power Building Fund. They subsidize energy-saving improvement works, including the replacement of air conditioning and lighting systems. The other paper mentioned providing tax concessions. We have the Voluntary Energy Efficiency Registration Scheme for Buildings, EERSB. In existing buildings, if they have installations or equipment whose energy efficiency is higher than the statutory requirements, say those of lighting systems and air conditioners, then they will be entitled to reduction of profits tax. In relation to another written submission, it talked about enhancing data transparency. We are actually undertaking work in this regard. We hope the Electrical and Mechanical Services Department will be able to do more. Now we have the energy consumption indicators and benchmark tools on the website of the EMSD. the public can learn more about the relative energy performance of individual buildings within the same type of buildings. There is also Energy Land available on the website of the EMSD. It is a one-stop platform. Technical information will be available online in the format of a form. That is a data disclosure form. That is a means to enhance data transparency, and we will be able to let the industry know which buildings need assistance. In relation to promoting community-level participation, starting from 2022, the EEB and the EMSD have been jointly organizing the Energy Saving and Decarbonization for All campaign. There are two charters, one Energy Saving Charter and the other is 4T Charter. We want to promote community participation from all walks of life. The aim is to increase public awareness about energy saving. Then all of us can move towards this goal. The other submission is about the government taking the lead to promote energy saving. Actually, in the Policy Address 2022, we strive to improve the overall energy performance of government buildings and infrastructure by more than 6% in 2024 to 25. We are confident that we can do so, but as we are still collating the figures, we cannot share such figures with you today yet. The EMSD has been conducting energy audits for government buildings in order to identify energy management opportunities. And we are conducting retrocommissioning and implementing energy-saving projects for government buildings. Examples include replacing lighting facilities with lights with LED lamps and adopting higher efficiency air conditioning units. We'll continue with our work in this regard. And that is my introduction to this paper. Shall I continue? All right, thank you. We thank members for your views expressed at the last meeting. In relation to data center, we have reviewed its definition. Our plan is to move a community stage amendment. Then we can clearly revise the definition of data center. Please refer to paper number CB-2765/2025-02. We are still drafting the community stage amendment, but members can refer to paragraph 3 of the paper. Then you will see the elements that we want to add to the existing definition. Please refer to the bold words in the third paragraph. Said operating computer systems, servers, telecommunication equipment, and associated support components. Examples include uninterruptible power supply, cooling, environmental control, fire services, and security system in a secure and controlled environment primarily for providing data storage, data processing, and distribution services. These outline the essential elements of the definition of a data center. Then we can rule out the possibility of some units that are for the pure storage of such computer systems. We have already consulted the Digital Policy Office and they consider this definition appropriate as well. All right, any more response? All right, 4 members have pressed the button to request to speak. I'll give each member 4 minutes. Questions and answers included. Thank you. First member, Mr. Andrew Lam. Thank you, Chairman. At last meeting, I referred to clause 7, that's about the superstructure of buildings. Mr. Tony TSE then wrote a letter to the administration, and I have already read the response from the administration. Please speak into the microphone, Mr. Andrew Lam. Well, let me put it this way. We want to carry out energy efficiency audits for buildings, and this is what the bill seeks to do. You use the word superstructure in the bill. Let's first not talk about the definition of the word superstructure. You have included MTR station. Say, what about in cavern? So I want you to be clear about what you want to govern or what you want to regulate. In your response to Mr. Tony TSE's letter, you refer to building consent both in relation to sections 7 and 8. On the last occasion, you were referring to section 14 of the Buildings Energy Efficiency Ordinance. In section 14, it's just about the authority having the power to approve building works and street works. In relation to building works, there is a wide coverage. What about pumping station in relation to draining works? Is there any energy consumption? Is it under your regulation? If yes, will pumping stations be approved under the consent as well? Well, I have an answer in mind, but I'd like you to tell us more. Please tell us what superstructure construction covers in your mind. Ms. Kwok? Thank you. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Andrew Lam, for your questions. Let's first talk about the definition of superstructure construction. And we already answered Mr. Tony TSE's question dated the 14th April 2025. Well, the question was about consent. That's exactly why we covered consent in our response to the letter by Mr. Tony TSE. But I will give the floor to the EMSD to give you more information. In relation to the scope of superstructure construction, when the Building Energy Efficiency Amendment Bill was scrutinized some time ago, we refer to the paper number CB-1511/09210-01. It refers to the construction on the base or on the foundation of a piece of land. And this explanation is applicable to this ordinance as well as the different types of buildings covered under this bill. Say, MTR station is constructed underground, and we included it as well. When authorized persons submits plans to the authority for approval, the same understanding is adopted regarding drainage works. If I understand correctly, they aren't covered by us. I'll give the floor to the EMSD.
Yes. Well, since Mr. Lam raised this in the last meeting, we've done some homework. For the consent scheme covering the superstructure, now some railway stations are underground, and under Cap 556, Section 54 of our railways ordinance, the Buildings Authority can exempt some railway stations from the relevant ordinance. We believe there is always some exemption, so there is no need to follow all the requirements in the Buildings Ordinance, Cap 1, 2, 3. In Section 2 of the ordinance, we've already added in this. That is, for Section 14, referring to approval, then similar documents can also be covered in the consent. So this situation or scenario is already covered in the ordinance. In 2012, for railway stations built after 2012, they already have to comply with this ordinance. We have liaison with the MTRCL, and they have similar documents for us as a starting point. Examples are the exhibition station in Wan Chai, and also the Tung Chung west of the Tung Chung extension. They are underground structures, and they have complied with the relevant requirements, and so we have checked this. What about pumping stations and pumping rooms? They're not covered under this ordinance. So isolated or independent works stations, they are not covered. Mr. Lam, this is the first time I heard that independent plant rooms are not covered. Now, this ordinance is about building services. I'd like to know whether building services include plant rooms. We'll talk about the ordinance itself. I pointed out that at the last meeting that you are very familiar with both the Buildings Ordinance and this ordinance. I asked about drainage services because usually drainage services already approved when the formation plans are submitted. So I have to ask for your policy intent whether these services are included. If they are relevant building services, then you should make it clear that they're included. Well, why did I quote the example for Kevin? Now, if it doesn't involve any building works with concrete and steel, there is no need for any plan submission. So you have to be more specific and clearer when it comes to the coverage of your ordinance. So can you tell us whether these structures are covered? Perhaps we didn't make it too clear. In Schedule 1 of the ordinance, we have listed out different types of buildings. Now, if there are buildings falling into these categories, then the building services of these buildings will be covered. Independent plant rooms so far are not included in the list. What about Kevin's? For Kevin's, now if there is a structure inside the Kevin. Now, we use the term superstructure in our ordinance. In 2010, when we scrutinized the first bill, we talk about a superstructure above the foundation and also the piles. So if in a Kevin there is a structure, and if there are building services within, they will be covered. Let me quote an example. For instance, in Stanley, there is water treatment works. This is not a new structure. Is it regulated under the bill? No. Now, this building's energy efficiency bill is not really something new. Structures or buildings included. Of course, there are additions and deletions at this time, but I don't think there's any change to the basic definition. It may have to be clarified, but I don't think we have to labor on this point. After all, this is not a brand new ordinance. The basic definitions are already quite clear given the years of operation since the enactment of the ordinance. Administration. Members can rest assured because in Part 1 of the current ordinance, that is in the interpretation section, we have got a very clear definition of building services: air conditioning, electrical and elevators, and elevators, as well as lighting. So these 4 types of building services are mainly covered. Next, Professor William Wong. Thank you, Chair. So the 2 power companies have got various funds to support the installation of energy-saving equipment in non-commercial buildings. I'd like to know the amount of subsidy provided in general, and also the types of works that can be covered. For instance, in this time round, you have added data center. So for data centers, what kind of subsidies can they apply for? The reason I ask about data centers is I fully support amendment to the definition of data center because data center and AI supercomputing center are 2 different things. For the latter, power consumption is exorbitant, so I'd like to know how there can be sponsorship. Secondly, I agree that you should use functions. You should define data centers by functions. Will you consider providing a schedule? For instance, under data centers, you can cover supercomputing center, cloud centers, etc. Perhaps you should have a schedule to list out all types of different data centers that can be included. Thank you, Professor Wong, for your question on how the 2 power companies are using those funds. We have an annual meeting with them. For instance, the CLP will sponsor those non-commercial users on installing energy efficient equipment, such as that is the electrical equipment upgrade scheme. Now, for non-residential account holders, each is entitled to a subsidy of $10,000, but for higher consumption users, the maximum is $150,000. The member can rest assured that we have annual updates with the 2 companies. With the passage of the bill, we will see what can be introduced to help non-commercial users, SMEs in particular. If they have need for financial assistance, we will see whether the fund can be used for setting up new schemes to assist SMEs to replace or install energy-saving equipment. As regards whether we should introduce a schedule, as explained in our last meeting, in fact, the current definition already includes supercomputing center. Yes, perhaps I can invite the EMSD to supplement. In fact, supercomputing center is already covered. Yes, Mr. Leung. Thank you for your view. I think we can use the code of practice or technical guidelines to cover details. Now, since the enactment of the ordinance in 2010, we've already got such codes. Yes, we can add things like supercomputing centers. Mr. Chen Xiu-hong, thank you, Chair. I'm grateful to the administration's response to our comments on the definition of data center. We welcome the proposed CSAs by the administration, and we really want to commend the administration's very forthcoming attitude. Now, for data centers, regardless of the size, so long as it is a building mainly for use or a commercial or industrial, a portion of a building mainly used for data centers, they have to be regulated by the bill. Well, many commercial buildings have data locks. You can call it a data center or a data storage device. They may use AI for commercial purposes in a commercial building. Enterprises may have 1 or 2 floors with data lockers for storage of data. The administration will make it clear that we're not just talking about the housing of such equipment. There must be the operational aspect, and it has to be in a secure and controlled environment. And please ensure that you have a clearer description of these centers. But then more and more enterprises have got their own data lockers. It used to be just a simple server, but there is no ruling out the possibility that these servers will get bigger and bigger. Now, if in a commercial building there is a floor of a data locker, well, even commercial buildings are subject to energy efficiency audits. But then, if it is less than 7,000 square meters in size, then it is exempted from the requirement of such an audit. But whenever there are data centers, then this exemption will not apply. So whenever there is a data center, there is no exemption in terms of size. So if there is an enterprise with less than 7,000 square meters in space, no energy efficiency audit is required. But so long as it has got a data center, it will have to comply with the ordinance. So how will you align the exemption with regard to the 7,000 square meters in this regard? And in the administration's response to the public's submissions, I'm pleased to see that the response is very detailed. And let me declare that I am a senior advisor to the CLP. Members of the public would want the administration to further promote community-level participation and foster a territory-wide energy-saving culture. We're grateful to the very positive response from the administration. Last time, we talked about the performance of buildings in terms of energy efficiency. Can you set up a scheme similar to a QMark, so that even for buildings that are exempted from energy efficiency audits, now if they take the initiative to do one, and if the outcome is 3 stars, for instance, the building can display this 3-star grading in a conspicuous area so as to attract tenants. Can that be done? Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chen, for your suggestion. Now, Mr. Leung will talk about the definition part. I would comment on the second part. On having an energy efficiency labeling scheme, as I said, we are pleased to consider one. The EMSD is actually doing the preparation, but we need more information in benchmarking. How do we grade buildings? We need to have the groundwork done, and then we will come back and share with members the progress.
All right, thank you. Regarding my second question, you talked about you talked a lot about what you did, but then you didn't cover what you have undertaken to do in the future. I understand you'll want to tread cautiously, and I agree with that. Thank you. Mr. Wallace Leung. Thank you, Mr. Chen. Regarding a clear definition, as you mentioned, we are actually referring to the entire block of a building. Say for a commercial building, whether it's larger or smaller than 7,000 square meters, it doesn't have to conduct an energy audit. But what about when such an area contains a data center? In our bill, we made it very clear an energy audit doesn't have to be carried out irrespective of whether there is a data center or not. If we amend the drafting of the definition, we will, on the contrary, make it even more ambiguous. Some companies may be concerned whether they will have to carry out an energy audit if they have a data center, irrespective of its size. Mr. Leung's explanation is very clear. An energy audit doesn't have to be carried out. Regarding public education and publicity, members will put forward suggestions. I believe the administration is willing to take on board members' suggestions. Every year, there are different competitions on energy efficiency performance or energy efficiency saving. There is publicity in schools, in the community as well. So I cast no doubt on the efforts of the administration. All right, next member, Dr. Ben Chen. Well, regarding premises for educational purposes, do you only cover schools? What about tuition centers? For kindergartens, post-secondary institutions, when they occupy an entire block of a building, then they are covered. However, for tuition center or tutorial schools that are in a shopping mall, then that building is a commercial building, and that's not included. Well, how do you define it? Do you use the figure of 50%? I'd like you to clarify this point. And regarding energy audit, you are proposing to shorten their intervals from 10 years to 5 years. When it comes to data center, escalators or lifts, as well as heat dissipation system are important. Nothing much will change within 5 years. I don't believe you will have to audit a cooling system in 5 years. Companies will have to engage a consultant to carry out an energy audit. I don't believe there is a lot to improve on within 5 years. So do we really need to shorten the intervals to 5 years? For electrical installations, I understand, but regarding other installations, do we really need to carry out energy audits every 5 years? Well, it's about policy discussion. Do Ms. Kwok and Mr. Leung have anything else to add? Regarding the intervals of energy audits, we're proposing to shorten them from 10 years to 5 years. We want to bring our practice in line with our neighboring regions, say South Korea, mainland, the EU, and so on. Green building installations and technologies change very fast. 10 years, we consider this period too long. We consider 5 years an appropriate intervals given the fact that these technologies change very fast. We are concerned that we may miss out on some technologies. Some energy audits don't involve money. They don't involve costs. Say the central air conditioning system or the lift installations need to be adjusted or calibrated. As we explained on the last occasion, an energy audit is similar to a medical checkup. Some measures proposed are mandatory. It really depends on the financial arrangements of the companies concerned. What energy efficiency saving measures do they want to implement? They can make their own choice. But we believe the interval of 5 years is in line with our neighboring regions. Mr. Leung. Thank you. Say for commercial buildings, probably over half of the building is for educational purposes. Then, according to our definition, this structure is considered to be premises for educational purposes, but these examples are few and far between. Rarely do we see an entire commercial block being used for educational purposes. It's rare. Dr. Ben Chen. Thank you. Just now, the administration said that they want to shorten the intervals from 10 years to 5 years because we want to outdo the US and the UK. Well, I didn't hear the administration saying so. No, they did not say so. Well, just now the administration said that they want to be in line with the practice of our neighboring regions by shortening the intervals from 10 years to 5 years. They also said that these measures are mandatory. It's just to inform them of these measures. A building needs to engage an auditor to carry out an energy audit, and the finding is that the temperature of the air conditioners can be higher. It doesn't have to be so low. So what is the cost effectiveness of this effort? Well, Dr. Ben Chen, you are raising the very same question. I'd like to ask Ms. Polly Kwok to take your question. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Dr. Ben Chen. Well, I believe I need to make it clearer. We don't just want to outperform the UK or the US. We believe this practice is appropriate. We identify room for improvement in relation to building energy efficiency management. We don't aim to outperform the UK or the US. We just want to move with the times. Conducting energy audits every 5 years can help buildings to identify opportunities to save energy. As we explained last time, there are a lot of situations in which after energy audits are completed, building owners do want to implement the measures. That is because they can save on electricity costs. We conducted analyses and surveys, as we mentioned. Power costs range from $20,000 to $100,000, depending on the size of the premises. Power costs account for less than 1% of the total cost every year. But in some cases, say shopping malls, after the implementation of the measures, after calibration of the measures, they can save as much as 10% of their power costs. That's exactly why we consider this opportunity an appropriate one for us to update the building energy efficiency management regime by shortening the intervals of energy audits from 10 years to 5 years. Thank you. Next member, Mr. Tony TSE. Well, I believe all of us support energy saving. I'd like to talk about tax concessions. Well, I always emphasize, apart from new buildings, we need to encourage existing buildings to carry out energy audits in order to achieve the purpose of energy saving. Regarding profit tax, the administration should look into it. We need to think of ways to encourage owners of existing buildings. I understand if this is our first step, but we do need to plan for the future. How can we provide more incentives? Probably the administration should think about this. This will help with energy saving. Well, this isn't under this bill. Just now, Chairman, you mentioned publicity, public education, and I believe we do need to work on this. All right, Professor William Wong, second round. Yes, I'd like to make suggestions regarding the intervals of energy audits in the case of AI supercomputing centers. Increasing the supercomputing power will also increase the energy to be consumed. In the future, a lot of applications will have to do with AI. AI will be used much more frequently in the future. Legal advisor. Thank you, Chairman. Members can note that there will be a committee stage amendment in relation to the definition of data center. The administration hasn't yet provided the amendment to the legal advisor. So we will get back to members after we have received the amended definition of data centers. Apart from the three main functions, that is storage, data processing, and distribution services, does the administration take into account the size of the data center or guidelines or other factors? Will you set out the factors in the bill, or will you do so in the code of practice? Mr. Wallace Leung. Thank you, legal advisor, for your question. We will set out clearly the definition in our code of practice. There is clear information on the document approved by the Buildings Department. Say we take into account the nature of the building. Is it a commercial one? Is it for educational purposes? We will set out clearly in the code of practice. Any more follow-up? All right, Dr. Ben Chen.
Just now, the administration talked about subsidies, like subsidies offered by the CLP, and I'd like the administration to be more specific as regards new forms of financial assistance in mind. And I'd like to know the time frame for introducing new financial schemes. I'd like to know whether you have any particular plans in mind. Thank you. Yes, I quoted the example of CLP. In fact, the HKE also offers similar schemes. Under our scheme of control agreements with the two power companies, we discussed with the two power companies the kind of projects that can be subsidized under the Community Energy Saving Fund. We are already subsidizing non-residential users in the installation or upgrading of energy-saving equipment. So once the bill is passed, we will further discuss with the two power companies how we can assist enterprises, SMEs in particular, the kinds of financial assistance they need, because we have annual discussions with the two power companies. We really have got some schemes, but there may be enhancements in the future that are subject to further discussion with the two power companies. So the financial assistance will be offered by the two power companies. The scope and also the extent will be subject to your discussion. Is my understanding correct? You may say so. Yes, the money comes from the two power companies, and in fact, it is rebate from their own incentive schemes. Thank you. If there are no further questions, we will continue with our cross-by-cross scrutiny. We'll continue to refer to the Chinese text of the marked-up copy. Thank you. Yes, we'll start with page 3 of the marked-up copy. Yes. This is about clause 5 of the bill. The approach is similar to clause 4 of the bill. That is for the already 13 types of buildings being regulated. We're going to add 2. And section 4 was about new works, and this is about renovation projects. So the commencement date will be 21st of September 2012, and the second part is the commencement date of the second stage of the bill. Assuming the bill is passed in June, then it will be in 2026 September, and so this will apply to data centers. So that is the purpose of this amendment. Okay, please go on. Page 4, 6.1. This is to add 2 exemptions to part 4, and that is areas that require energy efficiency audit. We are going to move a CSA on this exemption. So when a particular building is no longer eligible for exemption, then steps have to be taken. But we will first look at what's in the bill, and subsection 2 of 6, we're going to add 21.3, and that is the exemption referring to the GFA of 7,000 square meters. Mr. Chen Siu-hong and Mr. Lam Chen-sing. Mr. Chen will go first. With regard to page 4, subsection 3 is added. This part does not apply to a building specified in Schedule 4. In our last discussion, I raised a similar point, part of which has been addressed by the administration. However, I'm not still very happy with it. In Schedule 4, we see all the specified buildings to be covered. Now, there are new portions in buildings that have to be subject to the audit. In Schedule 1, we see hotels and guest houses. Common areas of residential areas or composite buildings, etc. In Schedule 4, they are not there. Although you have added this requirement of GFA that does not exceed 7,000 square meters, they will be exempted. But for hotels and guest house, so we were told that these buildings will do their own audits for the sake of energy efficiency. But for newly built hotels and guest houses, or if they have renovation work or retrofitting works, they have to comply with the requirements. But as time passes, there may be new technological breakthroughs, there may be wear and tear, some minor recalibration may help to save energy. So why don't you give these buildings a chance? They should go through an audit so as to save energy. Now I'm talking about hotels and guest houses and common area of a residential building. Since they are required to comply with the standards when they're newly constructed, then why don't you require 5-year audits so that they can look for room to improve their energy performance? This question was answered last time, but administration, please. Thank you, Mr. Chen, for your question. As explained last time, we have consulted the hotel and guest house industry. We would only cover them in the second stage because this industry is facing stiff challenges, currently at least. So they will not be covered in this round of amendment. Come the second stage, when they are better prepared, they may be included. Yes, that was the answer given to me last time. And once again, I heard from the administration the undertaking to cover not just hotel or guest houses, but common area of a residential building and common area of a composite building as well. So, yes, the hotel and guest house industry are facing challenges this time, and so you will cover them next time when they are at a better position. But what about common areas of a residential building or portion of composite building? They have to comply with the ordinance anyway, so why don't you cover them? Well, this was also responded to or addressed last time, but then the answer was too general. Please allow the administration to respond first. Now, for common area of a composite building or residential building, I would defer to Mr. Leung. Now, this is not about the economic situation. So their problem is not an economic one. No. We have reviewed that in common areas of these buildings, an energy efficiency audit is not really very cost effective. Perhaps I should defer to Mr. Leung. Thank you. We've got data on common areas of residential buildings and composite buildings. In fact, they only account for about 10% to 20% of the total power consumption of these buildings. Yes, they can carry out audits, but then they are not going to be very cost effective because the main power consumption is for lighting of common areas, etc. We would rather want them to channel the resources to replacement of lighting equipment. So we are now working on standards of voluntary energy efficiency audits. Now, if these buildings want to carry out audits for these places, we are going to give them a simpler version of audit to make the whole operation more cost-effective. I stand by my own view. That's okay. There is no problem that I'm sorry. Let me chair the meeting. There were many issues asked, already covered at the first meeting when we discussed the policy issues of the bill. Now we're at the stage of clause-by-clause scrutiny. Now, if we go through the policy issues again, while I'm not saying that you can't do so, but that will really stall the scrutiny of the bill. Yes, please continue. My concern is the reason why I raised this again is because last time my question on hotel or guest house was answered only. No, I'm afraid that there was ample discussion at the last meeting. Now, you talked about newly constructed buildings or those which have carried out major retrofitting works. Some require energy audits in the future, some not. The rationale behind that, well, that was amply discussed at the last meeting. Now, if you still have details to raise, feel free. Well, I raised a point of principle last time. No. Now we are looking at the bill clause by clause, and buildings in Schedule 4 are mentioned. So I am thinking whether the point of principle I raised last time will face any problem in operation this time. I'm afraid that the administration did explain their rationale for common areas of residential or composite buildings. If you're not sure, you can refer to our verbatim minutes. But never mind. We are now in a clause-by-clause scrutiny, and you may go on. When we scrutinize the bill clause by clause, we need to let the public and the industry fully understand the rationale behind the policy issues and how the policy intent can be translated into the provisions. So according to the administration, in common areas of some residential buildings, energy audits are not going to be cost effective. I beg to differ. This is because in many residential buildings, the common areas include clubhouses, swimming pools, a central air conditioning system. If they are exempt from the 5-yearly energy audits, you will leave it fully to the management of these common areas. They don't want to do any energy audits in order to save money. Now, if they are required to comply with the energy efficiency standards upon construction or major retrofitting works anyway, why don't you require them to do energy audits just the same? Mr. Leung, or rather, the DS. Thank you, Mr. Chen, for your views. Our data show that energy audits may not be too cost-effective for these common areas, but we will continue to keep in view this issue. While they are not covered in this round of amendment, they may be covered at our next stage. Now, for common areas covering large clubhouses and swimming pools, they may not account for the majority of residential buildings in Hong Kong. We can consider this point at our next round of amendment after we have the benefit of more information. Thank you.
All right, next member, Mr. Lam Chun Sing. I'd like to ask about bracket 4. If a building shouldn't be undergoing an energy audit for the sake of national security concerns, well, I believe the director refers to the EMSD. But the director doesn't have the power to decide whether a building should be exempted from an energy audit. When we grant discretion to a director, well, I'd like to know whether the director of the EMS does not have the power to grant an exemption. Do department heads need to write to the director of the EMS in order to grant an exemption? Does the director of the EMS simply implement the decision to grant an exemption? Does he have the power to decide? So in the future, will the head of grade or the department head write to the director of EMS to not carry out an energy audit in a particular building, and the director of the EMS does not have the power to decide? The director of the EMS only complies with the direction. Is that correct? Well, your understanding is broadly correct. The department head will have to write a letter to the director of EMS. That is because the department head is in the best position to tell whether there are any national security concerns or factors. There are hundreds of government buildings in Hong Kong. If the director of EMS should take the initiative to grant an exemption, that is not quite appropriate. We believe department heads will tread very cautiously to decide whether there are any national security concerns, so that a certain building shouldn't be made subject to an energy audit. And then the department head will have to write to the director of the EMS. This is quite a serious decision. Dr. Ben Chen, well, I'll be quick, so that you won't think we're wasting time. Well, I don't agree with Mr. Chen's suggestion. I believe the administration's proposal is appropriate. If we need to conduct energy audits every 5 years for all buildings, then there will be opposition. So I agree with the administration's proposal. I already made it clear on the last occasion, but I'd like to come again. I'd like to say that once again. Yes, I finished. All right. Bracket 4. This part doesn't apply to a building if the director is advised in writing by the head of a department of the government that carrying out an energy audit in respect of the building will be contrary to the interests of national security. In 21, bracket 5 is a new definition. It's about gross floor area. It has the meaning given by Regulation 23, bracket 3, bracket A of the Building Planning Regulations, Cap 123, Sublegislation F. In subsection 4, building includes a portion of a building. National security, we will refer to Section 4 of the Safeguarding National Security Ordinance. Mr. Chen would like to speak, and legal advisor also wants to speak. Mr. Chen, please. My question is the same as the legal advisors. This part doesn't apply to a building if national security factors come into play. If the director, if the head of if the head of a department of the government considers that carrying out an energy audit in respect of a building will be contrary to the interests of the national security, then an energy audit is exempted. Legal advisor. We haven't yet received the official amendment. When we have received the official amendment, we will explain to members. But we'd like to seek clarifications from the administration on 2 points. Responsibility will The responsibility will be on the owner of a building to submit to the director of EMS within 28 days. If one doesn't comply with this requirement, what will the consequence be? Within 12 months, when the requirement is no longer applicable, an energy audit will have to be conducted. Regarding Schedule 6, is about the date of the energy audit. Will you invoke this schedule, or will you add more provisions? Who will take this question? Mr. Derek Chow. If one doesn't comply with the requirement by writing to the administration within 28 days, we didn't impose any consequence. We want to make it convenient for the director of EMS to take law enforcement actions. We tend to introduce a new clause in relation to the requirement of 1 year. That is what we plan to do. Thank you. Next member, Mr. Ambrose Lam. An office may have a few blocks. If the head of a department considers national security risks come into play, then that very building will be exempted from carrying out an energy audit. So what about other buildings of the same office? Ms. Kwok. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Ambrose Lam, for your question. A complex may have a few blocks. The EMSD or the director of EMS will liaise with the head of department. If the letter sent in isn't clear, we'll request the EMSD to liaise with the head of department concerned, say which blocks should be covered, and that is our usual follow-up. Well, the definition of a building is a single block building. That is the existing definition we have. Next, Mr. Andrew Lam. Bracket 4. We can see the head of a department of the government, and the letter isn't capitalized, so I suppose the scope is very wide. A building will be exempted from carrying out an energy audit if doing so will undermine national security safety. Well, I'd like to know how you will follow up on the situation. Ms. Kwok? Well, we have accepted the legal advisor's view. If the head of a department considers the exemption no longer applies, in other words, after a period of time, the block should undergo an energy audit when national security factors no longer come into play. And then, within 28 days, a letter should be written to the director of the EMS. We will move a committee stage amendment to clarify this point. Thank you. Next member, Mr. Chen Siu-hong. Just now, when the administration responded, they talked about 28 days after the exemption no longer applies, but there is no penalty. In other words, when one doesn't comply with this requirement, there is no penalty. If the head of a department considers that the national security factor shouldn't be used, so the later they inform you, the better. When there's no penalty, they may drag their feet. Say they may not report to you within 28 days, probably 280 days, or even 1 year. You need to make it clear what consequences there will be. Otherwise, most people or most civil servants will only drag their feet. Well, as I explained, it's the decision made by the head of a department. The head of a department will have to write to the director of EMS. If a requirement no longer applies, we consider the 28-day requirement appropriate. When national security factors no longer apply, we believe this is a suitable requirement, and it's a cautious decision made by the head of a department. We believe the head of a department will inform the director as soon as practicable, so we don't find it necessary to impose a penalty in this regard. Well, it's a situational question. If a building doesn't come with any national security risks, there may still be some classified information or papers. Are there any internal guidelines? Just assume if I were the director of EMS. If I knew that national security factors no longer come into play, then whether I was informed of this decision, it didn't matter, it seemed to me. Well, I believe Mr. Chen's point. Is the spirit of the bill. We have already set out the spirit of the bill. There's a 15-month transitional period about this bill, and we will clarify the unclear points with the departments. It's about the internal interactions among different government departments. We don't have to set out all the details about the internal interactions among different government departments. Next member, Mr. Benson Look. Just now, Chairman, you outlined what I wanted to ask. A building does not have to undergo an energy audit if doing so will affect national security. I agree that it shouldn't be carved in stone. In the Council, we have passed the Protection of Critical Infrastructure's Computer Systems Bill. A total of 8 industries are covered under the bill. So when there are no longer national security factors, the government should revert to the usual communication mechanism among different government departments. Say when the head of a department informs the director of EMS, I believe there is letter communication. And in my opinion, letter correspondences would suffice. I believe these administrative arrangements are sufficient to plug the loophole. Thank you.
All right. If we don't have further comments on this part, please continue. Well, on page 5 of the marked up copy, 7.1 is to shorten the interval of energy audits from 10 to 5 years. Subsection 5 is the first energy audit. It will be specified in Schedule 6. 7.4 to require a copy of the energy audit form and energy audit report to be handed in, and also a data disclosure form. This data disclosure form will contain the basic information of the building. It will involve the use and also details of the building concerned. So that's page 5. Page 6 of the marked up copy. Mr. Andrew Lam, to be followed by Mr. Lam Sang Keung. Mr. Andrew Lam. Now, you've already touched on my issue. In paragraph 48, there are 3 types of building. There's the energy audit form and energy audit report on the audit, and now you have added a data disclosure form. You told us that the data disclosure form only contained basic information of the building. I'd like to understand the different kinds of information required in these 3 different documents. Mr. Leung, thank you. Mr. Leung, yes? Am I coming through? Yes. Thank you for your question, Mr. Lam. The first document is called the energy audit form, is already used currently. The owner is required to post this form at the lobby of the building to let the public know that an energy audit has been performed. And the second document is an energy audit report. It has to be submitted to us for examination and inspection. We have added a new data disclosure form. This is because we would like to disclose basic technical information of a building. The industry has required us not to disclose the whole energy audit report because there may be sensitive information. So we have designed a data disclosure form for owners to fill out. Such information will be uploaded to the internet. Information not on the form will not be disclosed. This is to assure the industry. Thank you. Before Mr. Lam Sang Keung asks questions, let us take a short break of 3 minutes.